The day I got my license suspended for a DUI, I didn't panic. My best friend did. In the life before this one, that other timeline where I was too naive to see the knife coming, she had borrowed my car for our annual family memorial trip back home. On a dark, winding road, she hit and killed an octogenarian. She pushed it all onto me, telling the highway patrol I was the one driving. Even my boyfriend stood by her, a willing accomplice providing the perjured testimony that pinned the murder on me. I was torn to shreds, literally. The dead man's family cornered me, and I died after being stabbed 8 times, my soul unable to rest. When I opened my eyes again, I was back. Back to the day my childhood friend asked to borrow the car. Willow, I need your car for the weekend trip back home. Can I just grab your keys? Sutton Miller, my best friend since kindergarten, saw my frozen silence and must have mistaken it for consent. She reached for my purse, ready to fish out the key fob for the brand new SUV my dad had just given me last month. The next second, I snapped back into the present. Seeing her hand reaching for my bag, I instinctively snatched it back and clutched it to my chest. Willow, what the hell? I'm not stealing your stuff. I just need the car keys. I looked at her, my eyes narrow with a lifetime of paranoia. No. I'm driving home myself for the memorial this year. Sutton clearly wasn't used to hearing the word no from me. She frowned, her voice tightening with impatience. Just take one of the other cars your family owns. You guys have, what, 3? This is my new car. The one Dad just got me last month. Go ask someone else, Sutton. You can't borrow mine. My voice was firm, but before the last word left my mouth, a strong hand ripped my bag away, found the key fob, and tossed it to Sutton. Willow, why are you being so cheap? It's just a loan. It's not like she won't give it back. Can't you just take a bus back home for once? I stared coldly at Dean Thompson, the man who was supposed to be my boyfriend, yet who always, backed Sutton up. I had been so blind in the last life, utterly clueless about the affair between these two rats. Sutton and I were best friends, practically sisters. We grew up a few hours apart in the same rural community before my parents moved to the city. Last time, when she asked to borrow the car for the memorial, I hadn't hesitated. It was brand new, yes, but I handed her the key without a second thought. Then came the tragedy. She hit an 80-year-old man on a dark country road. There were no cameras in the village, it was late at night, and I hadn't gotten around to installing a dashcam in the new SUV yet. So she pinned it on me. She somehow got a hold of my driver's license and planted it at the scene of the accident. The police tracked me down via the license. I was already shaken, ready to explain that the car had been loaned out, when Dean, my boyfriend, stepped up and told the cops I was the one driving. The license was mine. The vehicle was registered to me. The person closest to me testified against me. Any attempt to defend myself was useless. The victim's family found me and demanded a massive settlement. I refused, protesting my innocence. Seeing my refusal, the furious family swarmed me, pushing me into the highway where I was hit and run over by a semi-truck. There was nothing left. The memory of the asphalt and the crushing weight of the truck, the feeling of that betrayal, was enough to burn through my anger and ignite a cold resolve. I stepped forward, shoved Dean aside, and snatched my bag back. Before he could speak, I snapped, Dean, what the hell is wrong with you? Whose side are you on? You're my boyfriend, not hers. Why do you always take her side? My gaze flickered between them. Unless, there's something going on between you two? I didn't finish the sentence, but the panic in their eyes was immediate. They had me pegged as their cash cow, the easily manipulated source of money and favors. They weren't ready to drop the mask just yet. Willow, how can you even think that? Our 20 years of friendship, is all that worth nothing just because I wanted to borrow your car? Sutton immediately played the victim, the tears springing up with practiced ease. I shrugged, uncaring. Say whatever you want. I'm not lending you the car. But you can ask him. He has a car. Why are you only focused on borrowing mine? I pointed to Dean. Dean immediately balked. No. I need my car to go back to my parents' place. My dad has bad knees, we need the car. I let out a cold laugh. Looks like you won't lend it either. Guess you'll have to take the train, Sutton. I grabbed the keys, spun around, and walked away. After breathing in a few gulps of fresh air, I finally calmed down and drove home, my brow furrowed the whole way. Something still felt wrong. Suddenly, an idea struck me, and I pulled over to the side of the road, opening my State Department of Motor Vehicles app. What I saw made my blood run cold. Unbeknownst to me, when Sutton had borrowed my car before I got the new one, she had racked up driving infractions and used my license to take the points, 11 points in total. My current license was essentially a ticking time bomb. One minor violation, and it would be immediately suspended. I glanced in my side mirror and saw a state trooper walking toward my car. I'd been stopped for too long on the shoulder. An idea, daring and dangerous, clicked into place. Last time, Sutton had somehow gotten my license and planted it, which led the police directly to me. This time, I absolutely would not allow that to happen. She wants my license to frame me? Fine. I'll hand it over to the police myself. Now. Let her try to frame a woman who is legally not allowed to drive. I grabbed the household disinfectant spray I kept in the cup holder, the one with a high alcohol content, sprayed it around the car, and then, without hesitation, sprayed a quick mist into my mouth. The trooper tapped on my window. When I rolled it down, he immediately smelled the sharp, artificial alcohol scent. His expression hardened. He pulled out a breathalyzer. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to blow into this." I complied, blowing lightly. Seeing the number flash on the screen, the officer immediately stated, "Ma'am, you are over the limit. You're being charged with a DUI. Please present your driver's license and registration." I nodded obediently, handing over the card. I even asked, with genuine, relieved enthusiasm, "A DUI means a 6-month license suspension, correct?" The officer looked at my overly cheerful expression, confused, assuming I was in shock. "Now you're scared, huh? How many times do we have to say it? Don't drink and drive. You just don't listen. Your license will be suspended for 6 months, and you'll be fined $1,000. I happily paid the fine, surrendered my license, and called a rideshare service to take me home. Lying in my own bed, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. No one could frame me now. My license was already with the state. I told my parents that the new SUV had a major issue and was in the shop, so I couldn't drive back home for the memorial. Since my family had other vehicles, my dad immediately offered to drive us himself. We set off the day before the memorial, long before dawn. It was about a 3-hour drive, so I slept most of the way. I woke up as we pulled up to the old family property. The house was generally empty, only visited during the holidays and for the annual memorial. The 3 of us spent the entire afternoon cleaning it up. The next morning, my parents and I got up early, gathered our offerings, and prepared to head up the hill. We hadn't walked far when we noticed a commotion up ahead. I lowered my head and tried to keep walking with my parents, but then someone in the crowd called out my name. Well, look who it is. If it isn't Sia's daughter. Don't you say hello anymore? I looked up. It was one of the locals from the community. I only came back a few times a year, and my relationship with these people was purely a nodding acquaintance. I didn't even know half their names, there was no real need to stop. But since I'd been called out, ignoring them would be rude. I managed a tight smile and was about to move on when someone pulled my arm. Willow, look at Sutton, though. She brought us all these wonderful gifts. She's got a car and a nice place in the city, and she's got such an outstanding boyfriend. You should be more like her. I walked over and saw Sutton and Dean at the center of the crowd, soaking up the attention. Were they not even trying to hide it anymore? Being addressed as a couple, right out in the open? Sutton saw me and seemed to realize the locals had jumped the gun. She quickly tried to clarify. Actually, me and Dean are just friends. Please don't misunderstand. But the locals didn't listen, instead chiding her for being shy and trying to keep a big secret like a new relationship. I let out a cold laugh. Dean, when exactly did you become Sutton's boyfriend? I must have missed that memo. Panic flashed in Dean's eyes. He rushed over and grabbed my sleeve. Willow, honey, I came all this way specifically to see you. I wouldn't have even found your family's place if Sutton hadn't driven me. He turned to my parents with a fawning, eager expression. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, I'm Willow's boyfriend. I apologize, I haven't had a chance to buy you proper gifts yet. It's a pleasure to finally meet you here. The crowd burst into surprised murmurs. So, they had been the ones who misunderstood. The villager who had been the loudest looked embarrassed and shot a passive-aggressive remark at Sutton. Oh, so he's not yours after all? You should have said something sooner. You got us all confused. Sutton looked mortified. She hadn't expected the coincidence of me showing up right next to her property and being pulled into the crowd. I yanked my hand out of Dean's grasp and pressed the attack on Sutton. Sutton, since when did you buy a place and a car in the city? Why didn't you tell me? You must have spent a fortune on all these gifts. Sutton was silent for a few seconds before defending herself with self-righteous indignation. We're neighbors. We've known each other for years. Of course, I should buy them gifts. Willow, you shouldn't forget where you come from. The locals, who had just received her gifts, immediately rallied to her defense and started pointing fingers at me. She's a city girl now, looking down on the rest of us here in the country. I don't know what her parents taught her. She's a disgrace to the community. Your dad's old man gave him a basket of eggs when he went off to college. Now he makes money and he forgets everyone. My family hadn't done anything, yet in the locals' mouths, we were the villains. With so many people openly accusing us, my dad was about to step in and defend me when a group of people suddenly burst into Sutton's yard. Is Willow Reed here? The leader's voice was loud and commanding. Everyone in the yard instantly turned and fell silent. I quickly stepped forward. Officer, I'm Willow Reed. How can I help you? The officer studied me, seeming to confirm my identity. You are a person of interest in a fatal hit-and-run case. We need you to come with us. My eyes widened in disbelief. That's impossible, officer. I haven't driven my car in days. My dad, too, was instantly alarmed. Absolutely not, officer. My daughter would never do such a thing. The officer didn't argue. He held up a transparent evidence bag containing a blood-smeared driver's license. This is your driver's license. It was recovered at the scene. Whether you were driving or not, we require your cooperation in this investigation. I looked at the license in the bag, the horrifying realization of their new plan clicking into place. Before I could speak, Sutton stepped forward, her voice dripping with fake sorrow. Willow, how could you leave the scene? That was someone's life. You always drove too fast. I've told you countless times, Willow, why don't you ever listen? She sounded so heartbroken, so convincing, that if I wasn't the victim of her frame-up, I might have been moved. Wait a minute, officer, this isn't right, my mom suddenly realized. You said she was involved in a car accident, but my daughter didn't drive her car home this weekend. We did not find the vehicle at the scene, only some fragments of a bumper, the officer confirmed. At that moment, Dean stepped forward, a smug look of heroic revelation on his face. I know where the car is. We all looked at him. A sickening sense of dread welled up inside me. Dean, looking utterly confident, said, Come with me, officers. I'll show you where she hid the vehicle. The group left Sutton's yard and started walking toward our family property. Dean led the police into our house. Our seldom used backyard, which was usually cluttered with old junk, now contained an extra vehicle, my SUV. But I had parked that car in my garage at my apartment complex in the city. How did it get here? Officers, this is the vehicle, Dean declared, pointing. Willow was the one driving. She hit the victim, fled the scene, and parked the car here. She told me everything. If you had arrived any later, she was planning on driving it further up the mountain to hide it. Dean's expression was earnest, but as his eyes met mine, a flicker of triumph crossed them. Everyone, except my parents, who had been with me all day, now looked convinced that I was the killer. Willow, you should just turn yourself in, Sutton urged, stepping forward. It's the only way to get a lighter sentence. My parents were completely lost, their minds reeling from the shock. I watched the officers take a step toward me. I had to act, or I would go down for murder again. Officers, that driver's license is not mine, I stated loudly. I have proof. Dean and Sutton assumed I was just terrified. Dean pointed to the evidence bag. Look closer. Your name is right there on it. How can it not be yours? The officer, however, ignored them and listened to me. He took the license out of the bag and inspected it closely. Then, in front of everyone, he said, This license is a forgery. It's fake. The silence that followed the officer's declaration was heavier than the grave. Fake? Dean stammered, his face draining of color. That's impossible. It has to be hers. Her name is on it. Her photo is on it. The officer, a seasoned man named Sergeant Miller, looked at Dean with a gaze sharp enough to cut glass. The laminate is peeling on the corner, son. And the holographic security feature? It's a sticker. A bad one. He turned to me. Ms. Reed, you said you have proof? I do. I pulled up the digital receipt on my phone, my hand steady, fueled by the cold fire of vengeance. Tuesday afternoon. I was pulled over for a DUI. My physical license was seized by the state trooper. I haven't had a valid license in my possession for 3 days. You can run my name in the system right now. Miller nodded to his partner, who was already radioing dispatch. A moment later, the radio crackled back. Confirming license for Reed, Willow. Status, suspended. Surrendered on the 14th. The crowd of locals, who had been ready to crucify me moments ago, collectively gasped. The murmurs started again, but this time, the venom was directed elsewhere. I took a step toward Dean, watching him crumble. So, Dean. If I haven't had a license for 3 days, and I've been with my parents in their car since yesterday morning, how did a fake license with my face on it end up next to a dead body? And more importantly, I pointed a trembling finger at my SUV parked in the weeds of the backyard. How did you know my car was back there? Dean froze. His mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. He looked frantically at Sutton. I just assumed. Because you're here. You assumed I drove a car I'm legally banned from driving? You assumed I parked it in the backyard instead of the driveway? And you led the police straight to it without searching anywhere else first? I turned to the officer. Officer, my spare key was in my apartment in the city. Dean has a key to my apartment. I'm reporting my vehicle as stolen. And I think we all know who took it. Sutton, realizing the walls were closing in, suddenly shrieked. He did it. Dean did it. She shoved Dean hard, putting distance between them. He told me he borrowed your car. I didn't know he stole it. He was driving last night. I was asleep in the passenger seat. I didn't know he hit anyone until this morning. Dean's eyes bulged. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow. The love of his life, the woman he had framed me for in a past life, was throwing him to the wolves without a second's hesitation. You liar. Dean roared, lunging at her. It was your idea. You were driving. You were drunk. You hit the old man and screamed at me to fix it. You printed that fake ID at the library last week because you said Willow was too stupid to notice. That's enough. Sergeant Miller shouted, stepping between them. Handcuffs clicked, a beautiful, metallic sound. As they were shoved into the back of separate squad cars, Sutton pressed her face against the glass, screaming my name, begging me to tell them it was a misunderstanding, playing the best friend card one last pitiful time. I just stood there, my parents clutching my shoulders, and watched them disappear. In my last life, I died on a cold highway, surrounded by hatred. In this life, I stood in the warm sun, alive, while the trash took itself out. The investigation that followed was swift and brutal for them. Because I had established my alibi so thoroughly, my DUI arrest record, the GPS data from my dad's car, and the testimony of toll booth operators, I was cleared of suspicion within hours. The police forensics team went to work on my SUV. They found Sutton's fingerprints all over the steering wheel and a half-empty bottle of vodka under the passenger seat with her lipstick on the rim. They also found the printer files on Sutton's laptop for the fake ID. It turns out, Sutton had been planning this for a while. Not the murder, specifically, but the identity theft. She had been using the fake ID to rack up credit card debt in my name, planning to leave me with the bill. The hit and run was just an escalation of her parasitism. I sat in the interrogation observation room a few days later. Sergeant Miller had invited me down. They're turning on each other like rats in a barrel, Miller said, crossing his arms. You want to see? I nodded. Through the one-way glass, I saw Dean. He looked 10 years older. He was sobbing, telling the detective everything. She said Willow was a pushover, Dean blubbered. She said Willow's family had money, so they could pay off a settlement if she got caught, but Sutton couldn't go to jail. She convinced me to steal the car. She said we'd just borrow it for the weekend and put it back. But then she started drinking. I felt a wave of nausea. In the last life, this man had looked me in the eye and told the court I was a monster. He had held my hand while plotting my destruction. And the victim? The detective asked. Mr. Henderson, Dean whispered. He was just checking his mailbox. We didn't even stop. Sutton, she laughed. She was hysterical, but she laughed. She said, oops. I closed my eyes. Oops. That was what my life was worth to her. That was what Mr. Henderson's life was worth. Miller led me to the next room. Sutton was there. She wasn't crying. She was sitting with her back straight, looking annoyed, as if this were a minor inconvenience like a chipped nail. Look, I don't know what Dean told you, but he's obsessed with me, Sutton said smoothly. He stole Willow's car to impress me. I tried to stop him from driving, but he was violent. I was a hostage, really. We have your prints on the wheel, Ms. Miller, the detective said dryly. And we have video footage from a gas station 10 miles from the scene showing you in the driver's seat, buying vodka. Sutton's mask cracked. Just for a second, the demon beneath peeked out. Her lip curled. So what? She hissed. Willow has everything. Her parents are rich. She has a brand new car. I have nothing. I just wanted to borrow it. It's her fault for being so stingy. If she had just given me the keys, none of this would have happened. I turned away from the glass. I had seen enough. Thank you, Sergeant, I said softly. I think I'm ready to go home. The trial was the talk of the county. The best friend murder plot made headlines even in the city. I was called to the stand, not as a defendant, but as the star witness. I wore a white suit. In my past life, at the time of my death, my clothes had been stained with mud and blood. I wanted to be clean today. I recounted the day in the parking lot. I recounted the stolen bag. I recounted the years of friendship where I gave, and she took and took. When I stepped down, I walked past the defense table. Dean wouldn't look at me. He kept his head in his hands. Sutton, however, glared. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair unwashed. She mouthed something at me. You bitch. I smiled. A small, sad, genuine smile. I'm alive, I mouthed back. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Sutton Miller was found guilty of vehicular manslaughter, grand theft auto, forgery, and obstruction of justice. Because of the callous nature of the crime and her lack of remorse, the judge threw the book at her. 25 years to life. Dean Thompson took a plea deal for testifying against her. He got 10 years for accessory to manslaughter and grand theft. As the bailiffs led Sutton away, she finally broke. She started screaming, wailing that it wasn't fair, that she was young, that she deserved a second chance. I stood in the back of the courtroom. I saw Mr. Henderson's family, his daughter and grandchildren. In the other timeline, they had been the ones who cornered me. They had been the instrument of my death. Today, Mr. Henderson's daughter walked up to me. She was a middle-aged woman with kind, tired eyes. She took my hands. Thank you, she said, her voice trembling. The police said, they said if you hadn't proved the license was fake, they might have stopped looking. You got justice for my dad. Tears pricked my eyes. I'm so sorry for your loss. He didn't deserve that. No, she said. He didn't. And neither did you. I heard about what they tried to do to you. I hope you find peace, honey. She hugged me. In that embrace, the phantom pain of 8 stab wounds finally, truly faded away. 6 months later. I walked out of the DMV, squinting in the bright sunlight. In my hand was a fresh, valid plastic card. My suspension was over. I had paid my fine, taken the mandatory alcohol safety classes, which were ironically informative, and served my time as a pedestrian. My dad was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against the new car he had bought me, a sedan this time. We had sold the SUV. Too many bad memories attached to that steering wheel. You got it? Dad asked. Got it, I said, waving the license. You want to drive? No, I said, opening the passenger door. I think I'll let you drive for a while longer, Dad. I like the view from here. We drove out of the city, heading back toward the country. Not for a memorial this time, but for a picnic. As we wound through the roads, passing the spot where Mr. Henderson had died, I saw a small cross on the side of the road. Fresh flowers were laid there. I silently promised to send a donation to the local senior center in his name every year. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from social media. A memory from 5 years ago. It was a picture of me and Sutton, our arms around each other, smiling at a beach. The caption read, "Best friends forever." I stared at the photo. I looked so young, so trusting. I didn't recognize that girl anymore. She had died on a highway, terrified and alone. But the woman who held the phone now? She was strong. She was sharp. And she was free. I deleted the photo. Who was that? Mom asked from the back seat. Nobody, I said, rolling down the window and letting the wind catch my hair. Just a ghost. The road ahead was clear, winding and open, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I wasn't afraid of what lay around the bend.